We're joined tonight by Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, who knows more than a thing or two about, well, the Clintons, the Russians, and collusion. Great to have you with us, Tom. And
good to be with you again, Lou.
As always, thanks for the great work that you and Judicial Watch do. A terrific organization without which the country would not be nearly as well served. Let's start with why in the world isn't there some investigation of what we know to be motivated behavior to avoid, if you will, inflaming the Russians because they went after the servers of the DNC and our FBI and the CIA just said, you know, that's okay, we'll just back off. We don't want to get anybody, well, excited about it.
Yeah, I would take a step further back, Lou. I don't know whether the Russians hacked the DNC. I know that's what we've been told by the Obama intelligence agencies. I don't know, maybe they hacked the DNC, but did they release the emails? WikiLeaks has suggested that they did not get the emails from Russia.
Right.
I don't know whether they're telling the truth or not, but certainly it's got to be taken into account. And, you know, I'm just so confused about what we're supposed to be believing now. So if you look at the email that
we're supposed to believe that Donald Trump and his campaign organization colluded with the Russians, even though we don't have a scintilla of evidence to that effect, and even though we have mountains of evidence to the fact that the Clintons and the Russians worked hand in glove, whether it's uranium ore, whether it is presidential speeches being paid for at the tune of about $500,000 an hour in Moscow.
Well, you have millions of dollars flowing into the Clinton Foundation from Russia interest. Also money flowing directly into the personal coffers of Bill and Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State, while agitating against the sanctions move, and while promoting, from the same entity that was promoting the Uranium One stock that was really on the down, which is, was spiraling out of control downwards at the time Clinton was making his speech. But going back to this, what are we supposed to be concerned about? According to the Donald Trump Jr. email, the Russians wanted to talk, this is the theory, the Russians were colluding with Trump to talk about their collusion with Clinton because they had dirt on Russians and the DNC. I can't make that work in my head. You know, maybe some here in Washington can, but it doesn't make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, I don't believe the underlying theory, which is that there was collusion of any substantive nature. But what I am concerned about is that maybe they were telling the truth. Maybe they thought there was information on DNC collusion with the Russians, and they were trying to convey it in a ham-handed way to Donald Trump Jr. I think that ought to be a subject of investigations. And, you know, my view is investigate everything. Make it clear that it's being done in an independent, serious, fair way, which you can't be done under the Mueller regime.
I don't know what to make
about all the truth out.
I can't even figure out what Bob Mueller is doing. Why would an attorney of his background and reputation, who's taken a charge to investigate collusion, not be straightforward with the American people and say there is no such legal charge as collusion? And what in the world are we to do anyway? Meanwhile, why is he loading up with a bunch of Dems and pretty strong donors to Democratic candidates at that? This is on its face a charade that looks like it's going to have evil consequences for some time to come if we give Mueller his head and free rein.
I don't know why he's investigating the meeting. The meeting may have been politically damaging to the Trump presidency right now. It doesn't raise any legal or any particular ethical issues. Certainly doesn't raise any legal issues, I can tell. And if the standard is there are legal issues for meeting with Russian nationals, then there are going to be a lot of people under investigation in this town. And as we point out, the Clinton campaign, the Clinton camp, and Mrs. Clinton personally, in terms of getting money directly from Russian interests while she's Secretary of State. It can't be, it'd be difficult to overstate the seriousness of that.
Yeah, why wouldn't 17 intelligence agencies be investigating that? We have the sort of the word of 3 of those, plus the DNI, that was Russian intervention with the DNC servers. But again, that's at the level of speculation because we haven't got evidence and we don't have any sure connection. But now it's become as so many things have in this quote-unquote collusion episode, it's become fact just through repetition. It's really stunning stuff.
Well, compare and contrast what the all-hands-on-deck approach the Obama administration took to spying on President Trump and investigating the Russia connection, compared with what supposedly some lone FBI agents and a few active assistant U.S. attorneys were investigating the Clinton Foundation, and they couldn't get permission to do anything other than read newspaper clips.
By the way, Greg Jarrett, I just should point this out, last night pointed out to me on the Federal Election Commission. They make it very clear that volunteer work by a foreign national, including Russian, uncompensated work by a foreign national, including Russians, in a political campaign or as individual volunteers, by the way, is entirely permissible. Entirely permissible.
Well, this wasn't even volunteer work. These are meetings conveying information.
Yeah,
and if meetings conveying information are covered by FE, this is now what the left is arguing. The campaign finance laws were violated as a result of two people meeting to exchange information. It's a far cry from treason, and it certainly even ain't the law under their own ridiculous, absurd interpretation.
The point is that Russians could be supporting any candidate for president outright if they wanted to be, and within that, if they had discussions, it's not a transfer of value. It's a transfer of information as would be normal in the course of a campaign. I mean, the legal aspects of this thing become so ambiguous, even vaporous, as to be unhelpful. And then to have a special counsel pursuing collusion, which is not only, well, it's ambiguous, but it's also without definition in law as being a crime or something that can be even violated.
Right. You know, he's investigating this meeting.
Tom,
what is the crime he's investigating?
You and I could keep this up all night. What's
Amen.
the crime? And we know what the crime is. The crime is that we have got a special counsel who was put there through the designs of a fired FBI director and a compliant Democratic and Republican Party in Congress. And there is part of the principal part of the shame.